Hello everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mr. Happy, aka Mr. Happy Mondays, the weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. I've had a hell of a lot of videos this last week. I don't know what 3 videos I'm going to put at the bottom of the screen for this Mondays with Mr. Happy, but it's been crazy. My how to unlock Ultima Blade in Chapter 3 for Final Fantasy 15 video is over 100k views. My final Weapon of Legend video is actually over 100,000 views, which sucks because it's a horrible, horrible showcase of the game's combat and one of its super bosses. And I've had almost all the videos are at least around or above 10 to 15,000 views. It's been a great week for YouTube with all the Final Fantasy 15 content. And this week, we get the holiday pack. We get Final Fantasy 14's next fan festival, so we have some more stuff to talk about. We'll have a better inkling of what's going on with patch 3.5. We're no more than 3 weeks at this point away from patch, maybe 4 weeks. I guess I shouldn't say that. We don't know. Maybe it's like January 17th or something, but we're really, really close to fan festival this Friday, and then we're only a few weeks away from 3.5. So a lot of content lined up for the channel. I'm really excited. The closer we get to 2017, the more excited I am, because there's so many things happening, and I have so much better of an idea what I'm going to do going into 2017 than I did going into 2016, where I kind of just was like, yeah, I want to do things better, but I didn't have a plan. I've got a much better plan going into 2017. So hopefully it's going to be a fantastic year. I'm going to be doing one of those, yearly videos where I kind of talk about the last year, go back and talk about different things, things I've learned, things I want to go for in the next year. So be on the lookout for that. That's going to be here soon, closer to the New Year's, however. So looking forward. Got a lot of things planned. Hopefully you guys enjoy them. But anyway, we're live here on Twitch. I know you guys get to hear me talk about this all the time. So let's go over to the forums, answer the few questions we have there, and then we'll take some questions live from the Twitch chat. All right, first question. Hello, Happy Son. Don't do that. Don't call me Happy Son. My question is about the choice for combat systems in FF games and about the decision to go with more action-based system in 15. I personally was very skeptical about 15, not because I dislike action combat, because Final Fantasy is iconic for being turn-based in RPGs. I ultimately really loved the way Final Fantasy 15 combat evolved to be with wait mode, the tech bar. It felt like it added enough tactical gameplay, and I really enjoyed it. So this doesn't look like it's going to have any spoilers in the question, since he's asking about the combat itself. So I have 2 questions. First, would you like to see the action-based combat continue, evolve, and be used consistently in main numbered Final Fantasy games with no looking back? Or would you like to see it return to turn-based gameplay and have systems alternate in different number games? No, I think I'd like them to use turn-based combat for a good deal of their side games. World of Final Fantasy turn-based combat was great. I think the Bravely series and their turn-based combat, that's great. Use it for a lot of the side series, but I think that if they're going to continue to keep pushing the graphical prowess, I think turn-based is not going to be something we ever see again in the main series of Final Fantasy games. But I know that Square Enix is never going to abandon turn-based because they know that there's a dedicated fan base for it. They're just not going to put it in the main series. I actually wouldn't be surprised to see like a mini Final Fantasy inside of like another action-based Final Fantasy, like Final Fantasy 1. I was surprised there wasn't a mini game where there was legit like Final Fantasy 1 inside 15. Like they could just do that whenever they want. With the 30-year anniversary coming up, we're going to have plenty of turn-based stuff going on. I do think it doesn't need to be pure action, though. I think you can do something more akin to what it looks like they're doing with VII Remake or even Crisis Core, where it is still action and positioning, but it's more menu-driven. I think that sort of satisfies the turn-based desires a little bit more when you have that part of it and you still have an ATB gauge. I think that playing to those things is pretty important, but I don't think we're ever going to see a flat-out turn-based combat style in a main numbered Final Fantasy game ever again. And I think that they will continue to evolve the action combat now that they've got one Final Fantasy action game under their belt, and they still have so many resources within the company itself to pull from in order to ensure that it actually continues to evolve. Also, they won't be stuck with Luminous Engine again. Oh, I feel so bad for them being stuck with Luminous Engine for Final Fantasy 15 after they developed it. Second question is, how do you see the combat system in 7 Remake evolving from 15? So 7 Remake looks to be a lot more Crisis Core. If you've seen the early gameplay footage, it looks to be more menu-driven, kind of like I was just talking about, where you have attack, magic, summons, items, etc. And that's going to be where it goes. Now, to be fair, when 15 was first sort of unveiled, they did something similar where it felt very either Kingdom Hearts or Crisis Core with the menu. But I think we're more likely to see something closer to Crisis Core with Final Fantasy VII Remake, considering it's also in the continuity of the Final Fantasy VII universe. That's what I think we're going to see more of. The wait mode, I wouldn't be surprised to see that return, but I think that with it kind of being more menu driven, we're less likely to see that. But we don't know anything about it. Since that little bit of gameplay they showed, we know so little about it. It's pointless for me to say definitively it will be one way or the other. So I'm expecting just go to Crisis Core, And that's more along the lines of how I expect that one to play. All right, question number 2. Hello, Mr. Happy. My question is about the job Red Mage in 14 and the possibility of it being a tank. So if this is, I'm already reading this question. I don't do questions where somebody like posts a bunch of ideas and say, what do you think? Because what I think is irrelevant, ultimately. It has no bearing on how it ultimately turns out in the game, and it doesn't sway my what I envision the job being. Is it an idea? Yes, it's an idea, and it's something that is possible, Red Mage being a tank. But I don't do these kind of questions just because I'm not going to sit here and read and then I have to calculate out if it's balanced or how the abilities work together. It's so much that goes into it for what ultimately turns out to be no sort of, it doesn't change anything. We still don't know what Red Mage is going to do. And me reading your idea basically accomplishes nothing. It doesn't change my thoughts. It doesn't change how it's going to turn out. No developer is going to read it and go, yeah, we should do that idea. It's just a fun thing to do. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I could see you've listed a whole bunch of things right here. Maybe, yeah. Like, unfortunately, I just don't do questions like that because it's not even a question. You don't even ask me what I think of it. You just ask me to read it. And we kind of do Mondays with Mr. Happy where we actually ask questions, either to me or about what I'm doing or about the game, and less sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not theory crafting. It's more like fan ideas. That doesn't really fit in Mondays with Mr. Happy, if you understand what I'm saying. All right, next question. Hey, Haps. I'm a White Mage main for casual static, currently progressing through the last phase of A11 Savage. I rolled White Mage as I love to heal and not really fond of DPSing. Unfortunately, current meta for the game and fight mechanics leave a lot of downtime between necessary healing, and a lot of the time I feel heal over times, and Celine can handle it, which leaves the healer to pump DPS. While I'm totally okay with helping the group DPSing, I feel like a Final Fantasy could do more to make mechanics where healer shields matter more and DPS less. This is absolutely true, and we saw this a lot more in Midas. Midas Savage had a lot of healing checks, especially if you look all the way at the end to the Brute Justice fight. He is just a constant barrage of damage, and even a single missed global cooldown as a healer was just super detrimental to the group. Even the very last phase, you pretty much maybe get dots up and then you're just full on healing for that entire phase. That was when we were first progressing on it. Once more gear was had and a White Mage or an Astro could reliably solo heal a good portion of that last phase with maybe just a sucker in between, then it became viable to have a Scholar throw on a little DPS as a healer. But I think, yeah, there is not enough emphasis on healers being asked to heal. And I definitely think that Final Fantasy XIV could benefit from a little bit of that. Not because they need to do it, because they need to reduce the strain on DPS as healers, but because it's a little bit more in line with what the role is asked to do. I am fully of the belief that if you have time to DPS, you should. It should be planned. You shouldn't just do it randomly because you never know when there's going to be a crit or something else. You need to know exactly what kind of damage is coming in and going out. But I absolutely believe you should always take advantage, if you know it's a safe time, to pump out even just 2 or 3 spells. Doesn't need to be a whole lot. But I would like to see Square Enix develop more towards getting the healers to more actively use all of their healing tools like they did in Midas Savage without needing to push the number barrier so much. What are my thoughts? How do you think it would work out if they did? I think Midas Savage was fine. A lot of healers felt really stressed, and that ultimately is what it comes down to. But for every healer that's stressed about needing to heal a lot, there's another healer that's stressed about not needing to heal enough and needing to learn how to DPS. So pick your poison. One group is more comfortable in each situation, so there's no winners or losers here. I think it would be a smart idea to at least have some encounters that push the boundaries on how much healing is actually needed. All right, next question. Hey, Haps, long time, no ask. If you answer this, I'll be 4 for 4, which means you reply to 100% of my questions, which means I earn the achievement WWHJD. What would Hap Jesus do? Oh, God, then I kind of already know what kind of question this is going to be. Immediately after I watched your video on jump potions, I met a level 60 player who's asking the question a level 60 who allegedly cleared 2 floors of Gordia Savage should be asking, like, how do I reply to tells? What is the determination stat and what does it do? I assume they are trolling or bought the account because they did not switch from PC PS4, and I find it hard to believe someone who took a break even a year could forget so much about the game without suffering massive head trauma or drinking 3 cans of lead paint. Wow. So my question is, with jump potions looking like an inevitability, is this the future of our player base, or at least what percentage of it? If the devs fail to implement structured form of formal training for newer returning players. So first of all, let me just tackle the jump potion question with the same quote I give every time. These players, so I'll actually refer to your point right here. Believe it or not, I've seen people who have played the game for 3 years and did not know what the determination stat. I've seen it before. And they are people who I knew and who I played with, and they'll just one day be like, what does the determination stat even do? Everyone just tells me it does this, but like, what does it actually do? And it's like, dude, really? You don't know that? It's literally been playing this game for 3 years. You don't know? You never hovered over it once? And the short answer is no, actually. I am not surprised at all to see people who don't use the tell system because they play completely alone with little to no communication with other people, which, believe it or not, a lot of people do in Final Fantasy XIV. They treat it like a single player experience where they occasionally have to interact with a party, and they never send tells. I'm dead fucking serious. This shit happens. And so it's not even about what they forgot. It's about what they never bothered to learn. And that's the number one thing about jump potions with me. My philosophy of it is, if somebody plays a game and they want to be good at that game, they will get good at that game. It doesn't matter if you throw them in at max level. It doesn't matter if you make them start from 1. If they are dedicated to the idea of improving as a person, they will. If somebody doesn't give a fuck, they will never try to improve. They may naturally improve over time, but that's not even a guarantee right there. So in my world, jump potions bring not just new players that have no idea what they're doing, but new players that want to actually learn but don't want to go through the leveling process. You don't know how many people I know that come into my chat every day and say, hey, I play World of Warcraft. I've played it for 6 years. I'm looking for something new, and I want to play Final Fantasy XIV. How long does it take to get through the main story? How long does it take to level? And I answer them, well, you have to do this, that, and this. And holy shit, motorcycle. You have to do this, this, and this. You have to clear to 2.0, then you have to clear through to 2.55, then you have to clear 3.0, and then there's another 4 story patches. They go, fuck that. And you can look up that person and they will end up being like heroic or mythic level raiders who are interested in trying Final Fantasy XIV. These are top quality raiders. Just because it's World of Warcraft, don't fucking underplay it. Just because it's World of Warcraft doesn't mean that they're automatically going to be shit at our game. All right. They are a top level raider. They are committed to the idea of improving. That is the most important thing. They set the bar higher for themselves, and they will not get into the game because they have no interest in going through all the main story. And even if they do get into it, they never finish the main story. That is what I want to jump push. Those are the players I want to bring in. The ones who are invested in high level rating in other games, who have no interest in diving into Final Fantasy XIV because they don't want to play catch up, but they are players who will do good at max level. Those are the players I know the jump potion will bring in. And yes, are there going to be people who said, I don't have the time, but if I'm max level and I can already do everything with my friends, I'll do it anyway, and then they have no fucking idea what you're doing? Absolutely. You know what, though? It's been 3 fucking years, and there are people, and every day I have to deal with people who do 600 DPS in the Duty Finder as a bard, or think that, you know, MP regenerative skills are worthless, or think that tank cooldowns are worthless, or spam Fire 3 as a Black Mage, or spam Blizzard 3. I've been dealing with those things for 3 years. And guess what? That happens in the mid-30s to late 40s, and occasionally at 60. I have seen that so many times, you cannot convince me that the jump potion will make it worse. Because the people who are that invested to spend the money, if they're going to spend the $25, are probably more invested in the idea of actually playing the game, if you ask me. So, I think that it's not going to damage things as much as other people think. With all the people who may not know what they're doing, there's also people coming in who are happy to finally be able to play 14 without needing to go through fucking 3 years of story quests. Do you understand what I'm saying? There's also people, and then there's also this one, jump pot with friends, and then there's the other thing. Friends invite someone to the game, and the person jump potions, and that friend helps explain the game to them. You got to factor in all the possibilities. And I know there's people who are like, oh, well, you know, I suffered through all those quests, so they should have to suffer through all those quests. That is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard. That is outright the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard. So what you're saying is, you admit that these portions of the game were not enjoyable, and you want new players to have to do that. You demand that they have to do that. So you're saying you don't want new players playing your game. You're trying to reserve this space for yourself on the internet where you're the special snowflake and everybody else needs to earn your fucking respect. No, they don't. It's a fucking video game. Nobody cares. Ultimately, nobody cares. It is a fucking video game. So, just because there are people out there who don't know what they're doing doesn't mean the jump potion is going to mean that's the only people that they're bringing in. Ultimately, you think, will we see a spike in RMT activities, such as character sales for players that are too lazy to play the game? No, because people could just spend $25. And then that's fine. They're max level, whatever. They already spent the game. They already spent the dollars on the game. And that's ultimately how it's going to work. And by the way, most of the people who I know who are excited for jump potions are people already playing the game. all I gotta say is, that's more money in Square Enix's pocket if you're already playing the game. Yeah, I'll level all my alts. Awesome. They're already fucking playing the game. You can't complain about them. So I think we'll be fine through jump potions, and I think people are only thinking of themselves in this way too frequently with not enough information. Oh, by the way, just as a reminder, the jump potions don't take you to max level. Nobody's reading this. It takes you to 10 levels under max. Even now in Korea and China, it takes you to level 50 and finishes 2.55. You still have to do everything else. And at Stormblood, it'll be to 60, and you have to go to 70. I feel like most people think they're getting a max level character. That's not how it works. I'm just reiterating that that is part of the system. Alrighty then, let's see how many other questions are about jump potions this week. Hello, hello, hello. Once again, thank you for your video you put out for Mr. Happy. Your videos, thank you. Thank you for watching my videos. While most of them are recently 15 related, I'm sure I'll find them interesting once I finally get the game and a PS4 to go with it. As for the questions, I have 2 for you this week, and if you think you're low on time, the actual questions are bolded. I always appreciate that. I always love when you guys bold the questions like that. In Final Fantasy XIV, the current big topic is the level jump and story skips. Okay, let's get right to the bold then. Since you have been doing the Healer Happy series and skipping cutscenes there, what would you be your estimate of how many hours it would take someone to clear 3.0 in a new character? This is a different take on the question. Let's assume the player skipped all the cutscenes, knew what to do, got instant queues for the dungeons, ignored everything. Oh man, 3.0. So you mean 2.0, 2.55. So all of the main story quests between 2.0 and 2.55, you can estimate a maximum will take you 4 to 5 hours. So that's 20 to 25 hours around there. And don't get me wrong, you totally do it quicker. I've done some of those patches in 2 or 3 hours. I've done some of them in an hour. I think 2.5, other than the Chrysalis, with the dungeon time and with Chrysalis, takes about 3 hours. But then there are ones like Ramu, which can take a lot longer because it's just, there's so many filler quests that it just drives you insane. Ramu takes closer to 5 to 6 hours. So that's like an estimate. Let's say like 20 hours to get through all that. On top of that, it'll probably take you about 20 hours to do 1 to 50, depending on like how much you skip cutscenes, how long it takes to do all of the dungeons. You know, let's say 20 to 25 hours there. And then you have to actually do 3.0s, which will probably take you another 15 or so hours. So probably, if you know what you're doing, you skip all the cutscenes, all that, you could probably do it in like 60 hours, 60 to 70 hours, all that stuff. But you also have to factor in, they're going to have to go do their job quests, they're going to have to go level other classes to get cross-class skills, you're going to have to get the subclass at least at the very beginning. And there are certain scenes you also can't skip, so there are also those to factor in. So I'd say probably about 60 to 65 hours-ish total if you know what you're doing and you skip all the cutscenes. 2, I see people talk about the Red Mage job being a DPS. However, with in games with Red Mage, mechanically they end up being able to heal damage, deal damage, support abilities. Yeah, they're jack of all trade, master of none. That's normally what they do. You think there will ever be a DPS or tank heal ally skill as opposed to self heals like Second Wind? Yes, I totally think that's something that we could put on even something like a DPS job. Well, if Paladin has Clemency, that's pretty much the closest we get right now to a non-healer being able to heal other people. And then you have Monk's Mantra, which, you know, doesn't heal, but increases the healing via curative spells. I totally think that I wouldn't be surprised to see a job that is able to take some of their HP and give it to somebody else as a means of relieving stress on healers. I think that's a good utility to place on a role that's not a healer, because it gives you a very clear distinction. Oh, well, we brought this DPS that has one ability every 60 seconds that can heal an ally. That's the only healing they can do, but it's super valuable because, I mean, Second Wind. How awesome is Second Wind when you have it yourself? Oh man, glad I had Second Wind there. It's always good, you know? And so having a Second Wind that you can cast on somebody else, maybe Monk gets it, who knows? But I think that that's something that actually could be very valuable as a utility to give a non-healer or even a non-tank, just give that to a DPS of some kind. As long as you can't use it on yourself also. I think that if you're going to have an ability like that, odds are you also have Second Wind, especially with the way the cross-roll system is going to work. You probably can't cast it on yourself, similar like Goad. So that might be the one drawback to it. But I think it would be an okay thing to give him to. And everyone's like, Dancer could do that. I was like, no, 2 monks. All right, and next question. Well, we did get 2 questions about the jump potions, but the second one was unique. I liked it. What's up, Happy? My question involves the Blu-ray Duality album you mentioned on Stay of the Realm. I received my copy today, which I originally ordered because I thought there were unique Orchestrion rolls you could get from it. I don't think these are redeemable outside of the Japanese region. Are the bonus Orchestrion rolls actually exclusive? Were there bonus Orchestrion rolls? I'm live streaming on Twitch. I'll actually wait for someone to answer me. I didn't even know that Duality came with anything. I just bought it. I didn't actually know it came with anything. So if that's true, I am more than willing to let my chat tell me, and if my chat will tell me if they're only redeemable in the Japanese region, then I'll have an answer for you. So my chat has confirmed, yes, Duality comes with 2 Orchestrion roles. So that is news to me because I actually didn't know that. Whether or not you can only redeem it in Japan, that doesn't sound reasonable. One's the piano track and one's Ravana. You got to be able to redeem those outside of the Japanese region. I can't imagine that they would actually be like, hey, look at this, pre-order it in America. And you, by the way, fuck you, you can't use the thing. You got to be able to use those with, there's got to be like a code on the, yeah, so it is redeemable. So check the inside of the CD jacket, there should be a code in there, and then you put that code into the Mog Station, and then the Orchestrion rolls get mailed to you. So yeah, you can get those Orchestrion rolls. Don't worry, you're not screwed out of those. All right, next question. Hello, Mr. Happy. This week's non-gaming question is, if I visit San Diego for 1 or 2 nights and I want to have the best fine dining dinner, which restaurant would you recommend? Ooh, there's a lot. So first of all, that depends on if you like seafood. That depends on if you don't, if you like French food. There's actually a lot of fantastic choices, so much so that I couldn't pick one. If you want to have the best fine dining, though, oof, you're gonna want to go to downtown first of all. You definitely want to go down. English, want to go downtown. Downtown San Diego. There's plenty of places there, but man, I haven't eaten at too many of them because like I work from home so much. I don't actually get to eat at any of those fancy places. We drive past them pretty frequently. And then there's just places that are good for like general food purposes. Like there's crab places. There's lots of seafood places. What's it called? PB, Pacific Beach also has a lot of really good eating locations. Man, this is tough. I don't know if I could pick a single place. There's so many good places right by the convention center too. I mean, you could even just go to the Hard Rock Hotel and go to what's it called, Nobu. Like even those are really, really good. They're also really expensive, but yeah, down by the convention center, man, there's so many places that I definitely can't pick one. Oh man. Yeah, I mean, Nobu is not even like something unique to San Diego though. Like you could find Nobus in like most Hard Rock cafes or Hard Rock what's it called, hotels. Dude, that's tough. That's really, really tough. I mean, let's see, I took Mel out to this one French place. I don't think I could pick one place, man. Like there's okay, so there's a place by the San Diego airport. It's actually like almost part of the San Diego airport. I can't remember its name for the life of me, but it's one of the highest rated places to dine in all of San Diego. And it's actually at the top of a building overlooking the San Diego airport. If I can't remember the name of it right now, but I would look that place up. That is supposed to be one of the best places to dine in all of San Diego with one of the best views in all of San Diego. So look that up, look up like San Diego Airport, and then look at the restaurants nearby, and you should find what I'm talking about there. All right, next question. Hello, Mr. Happy. This is Finalism, and welcome to my question on your channel. Why don't PS4 or Final Fantasy 14 players have the DPS parser and only PCA gamers do? Because it's not an official part of Final Fantasy 14. It is an add-on, or it's not even an add-on. It's a separate program known as Advanced Combat Tracker, which you'd have to go out of your way to download. It's completely unrelated to Final Fantasy 14 itself. So PS4 players cannot access said tool because they can't run it on a PlayStation 4. Now, is it illegal? I guess we need to stop using the term illegal. It's not like Square Enix is going to be like, yeah, we're going to send you a cease and desist. You're going to take you to court for knowing that you do 2100 DPS over the course of the next 45 seconds. You know, you're not allowed to know that. Fuck you. That's it. We're suing you. Not illegal. It's against the terms of service, technically, to use third-party programs that parse the game's data. Now, more specifically, Yoshi P has said, listen, I know you guys need this. I know it's an important part of raiding. I want it. I believe you guys need it. So, don't be an asshole with it, and nobody will punish you. Yes, it is against our terms of service, but there's no way I'm going to enforce that, because asking you to not have parsers and ask you to not know what your DPS is totally against the spirit of raiding. So, as long as somebody's not being an asshole and going into 24, man, what the fuck is this? 600 DPS bards everywhere. As long as they don't do that, they can't get in trouble for it. So that's the best that you're going to get on that front. I just noticed that like the box at the bottom's text was all stretched and stuff, so I just fixed that right now. Next question. Hey, Haps, your last response caught me off guado. Oh, that's bat poop. No, guado. That's guano. That's bat poop. Guado is Final Fantasy X. I don't want to talk about Final Fantasy X right now. Wait, foreshadowing typo is bad sign. After having started Final Fantasy X on my PS2 in 2016, I asked myself, and now you, what do you think about Braska's journey as playable content? A lot of people have suspected that Final Fantasy X-3 or a third Final Fantasy X game would ever exist, that it would be those three. It would be the journey of Braska, Auron, and Jecht. And that's not something I'm opposed to. I mean, similar to Crisis Core, it's like we kind of already know how it goes. We already know a great portion of that story, but it's kind of told to us with like things in between, with their struggles in between, because there's likely things that they've had to deal with that we didn't see because it wasn't deemed important enough for us to know. I think it's a good idea. It's better than making a 10-3 based on the audio drama, which they've suggested they may do after VII Remake of Kingdom Hearts 3. Don't do that. Don't do that. Please, I'm begging you, as someone who has to play these things for a living, don't do it. Please. And get to play as Jecht. Not just Jecht, but the whole party of three. Have a first-time bonus of any home of your choice, but nobody wants the goblet. This man knows how to make a first impression. Just a quick question for you. Do you think they're ever going to see 8-man dungeons again, like the Castrum dungeons? I do like them kind of dungeons, despite more often than not, it attracts the really stupid people. I don't want to use the actual word, because it's kind of fucked up. But I think some form of level 60 version would be cool if they made it as challenging content. So I would like to see 8-man dungeons appear again. But they can't be story dungeons, because that led to a lot of problems. Because with story dungeons, they're easy enough to the point where 5 of the people could reasonably beat it. Hell, even 4 of the people could reasonably beat it. And you've got 4 people that just get stuck behind. I don't even want to say they're too slow. They get stuck behind because the other 4 people have already done this shit and they don't want to know the story again. So they're just like, well, fuck you, I'm skipping all the cutscenes, pulling the bosses, whatever. And that's what's going to happen no matter what if they make 8-man's part of the story. However, making just an 8-man dungeon, like a regular dungeon, perfectly okay with that. I would even like the raids to be more dungeon-esque, even if it means like 2 mini-bosses, each with 1 piece of loot, and then a boss at the end that has 2 pieces of loot, and then they split the loot table on like that. And the mini-bosses don't need to be that hard, you know, just ultimately you could even still only have 4 tiers, but then just add mini-bosses that have minor mechanics that'll mess you up, harder than Faust, please. Harder than Faust, but easier than the boss itself. And I think we could definitely benefit from something like that. And this 8-man dungeons in general, I think, are something we could do. Even Eureka looks to be more focused around parties of 4. Although the exploratory missions seem to be more focused around parties of 8, but it's a completely different beast. So we'll see where it turns out. But yes, I would like 8-man level 60, level 70 dungeons at this point. Let's say level 70 dungeons because Stormblood's coming out. So can't really ask for 8-man level 60 dungeons. All right, I think this is actually the last question on the Dream Network forums. My glasses are like phasing out. They do that almost every week though. That's just something that kind of comes with the territory. Sometimes the light, they don't do that. Sometimes with the light, they do that. And I can fix it slightly, but it's never going to be fixed all the way. So this is the last question over on the Dream Network forums. Then we're going to take some questions from the live Twitch chat. Hey, Hap, sup, sucker. How's it going? Good, good. Have a Katatsu table to keep you and Miss Happy warm during the winter dinners. Dude, it is hot as fucking here, I'm just gonna say. Hope I'm not too long-winded, so please bear with me. Rain 812 normal for weekly drop as warrior. Of the DPS, the party, one was a black mage while another was dragoon. The other thing is the off tank made to pump out those fell cleaves, maintain Storm's Eye, Storm Path, wipe for the first time on the gate check because the black mage tunnel vision forgot to go in a gate. That's fine. Second time we're going to the time gate check. Remind the DPS go to time gate. Black mage and 2 other DPS going in. Dragoon stays out. I remind again while the gates are still open. The dragoons begin to assault and even toxic to me and arrest the party. Oddly enough, we passed the time gate check. Once we complete 812, the Dragoon proceeds to berate me and say I should get good, even saying he didn't have to do the mechanic because he's I-270. Called him out by reminding him the other DPS completed the gate check the second time, whereas we wiped the first time with him actually going into a gate. Get fucked, Dragoon. Party then agreed he makes the LOL Dragoon legend hold true as the LOL Dragoon exited in a whiny huff. Almost forgot he never used Battle Litany. What a piece of shit. And okay, let's calm things down a little bit. So here's the question. Is there anything that can be done to improve the prevention of players using their eye-level EP to forego doing mechanics and potentially make things pain in the backside for others? Labyrinth of the Ancients, first boss, and Ozma's Meteors come to mind. You know, I've never had somebody use their item level as an excuse. I've never seen it. Ever. In game. I know it happens, trust me. But even in 24-mans, and all the time I've pugged 24-mans, I've never done a full 24-man pre-made. I've never seen somebody use their item level as EP. I feel like that's just not something that happens on Ether as frequently as that happens on Primal. Or even on the European data centers, or any place that's not Ether. I don't know. I just don't see these problems. In 3 years, I've never seen that happen. But it happens. And there's nothing you can do other than calling the person out if they're actually fucking up and using their item level as an excuse to not do something. If you're looking for an excuse to not do mechanics, your only excuse better be Grease Lightning Stacks, Blood of the Dragon, or I'm a Black Mage. Those are the only three things that are going to be acceptable, because Blood of the Dragon is like, I waited. He could have just said, I was going to go in the gate, but I was trying to keep, I needed to make sure I hit this GCD to keep Blood of the Dragon going into the gate. And then he could have gone into the gate. You know, that's reasonable. If you see a Dragoon, it's like, why isn't the Dragoon going in? Why is the Dragoon going in? Because he's 2 GCDs away from extending Blood of the Dragon. He's like, I gotta extend this now or I'm fucked. Or a Monk who's trying to end on a Coerce Stance attack so that they don't lose Grease Lightning going into the gate. Fine. Or a Black Mage. They stand in everything. As long as it doesn't one-shot them, they just stand in everything. So, no, there's no way to prevent it. But, I mean, just call them on their shit. I mean, that's pretty much all you can do. Bonus question. Since when are Final Fantasy 15's Tomberries freaking Sith Lords? Kappa 9001. Did you know that if you type Kappa 9001 and you have 9001 cheers, it will actually cheer a Super Kappa in Twitch now? It is pretty fantastic looking in the chat. Bonus question. Favorite holiday? I don't have a holiday food, man. I still got some ramen soup right here, like the bottom of a ramen bowl that I was waiting till after I was done with Mondays with Mr. Happy to just, you know, finish. I like ramen, man. I like ramen. I like potatoes. Potatoes could be a holiday food, right? All kinds of potatoes. Scallop potatoes, mashed potatoes, russet potatoes, red potatoes, fries, home fries, hash browns. You name it, potato, I love it. Bonus cubed question. Guilty pleasure holiday food. Mine's fruitcake. Again, I don't really, now that one I can't answer. I don't have a guilty pleasure holiday food. I just eat what I like, and I like what I eat. On that note, let's take some questions from the Twitch chat, because we definitely got time for some questions over there. So, the first question we have here, one I haven't answered in a while, so I'll take it from the Twitch chat. Do you think Final Fantasy XIV will ever give jobs a different spec? Might as well take that off the screen, since that's not the question we're answering. So, like, Dark Knight could be a DPS instead of a tank. I don't think they ever will. I think it's something that I more than welcome, however. The problem is, if they're going to do that, they need to now basically make every job split into 2 jobs, because they need to make sure both the DPS side of them and the tank side of them, in the case of Dark Knight, are both functional and not, you know, underpowered, overpowered, etc. That may lead to more homogenization of the skills that different jobs bring to the fight. So it's hard to say that they ever will do that. I mean, they'd probably have to omit releasing new jobs for an expansion. And I don't think anybody's willing to put up with getting less jobs to split the current jobs that we have into 2 specs. Maybe people are, but I'm not so... I don't believe that people are okay with that. All right, this next question is on a personal level. One, again, I haven't answered in a while, but I have answered it before. Kind of a personal question. In what way do your parents support your content creator career, the CCC? Did they support you through it? So, the person who supported me through it the most, about 99% of it, is the woman in the other room right now, my girlfriend, Mel. She is the one who said from the beginning, do it, I believe in you. We'll find a way to work through it, etc., etc. My parents were like, how does that work? How do you make money on that? Is that something you could actually do for a living? Does that make sense? Are you sure? That was kind of what I dealt with my parents. Eventually what it led to is them still not understanding it, but accepting that it was successful. You know, that when I told my parents I'm moving to California, they were like, you make enough money to do that? And I was like, yeah, I'm now I do. I didn't at the beginning. Now I do. And then every time they get a chance, they ask me, it's like, oh, you know, how many subscribers do you have on Twitch? How many subscribers do you have on YouTube? You know, how many people watch you every day? How much money is that? Because they just don't get it. You know, my mother worked a very normal job. She was a paralegal. So she gets paid hourly and that's it. My father, restaurant business. He owned a restaurant. He's worked as a waiter and he kind of understands how that works, how to calculate, you know, tips versus, you know, how much he earns hourly, which is next to dick in New Jersey. But otherwise, it's not that they don't support it, it's that they don't know how to support it. They're so out of the times because they're, you know, in their late 50s now, that they just they can't catch up with the idea of making a living like that. They can't get with the idea. So they just kind of accept, hey, I see him earning his way. He's successful. He's not asking us for money. That's a big plus. But you don't know how excited my dad was when I got out of college and I didn't have to ask him for a dime. He was like, oh, thank God my son doesn't need to ask me for money. Oh, thank God. Oh, that's such a load off of it. He was so fucking happy that I didn't ask him for a goddamn dime. And that's all that matters to my family, is if people can make their own, then they're all right. What they're doing is working. You don't question it. You accept it. And that worked for me. It meant that they didn't at any point really try to stop me. They just asked questions to try to understand. And that worked out really, really well for me, because it means I was never in an oppressive environment in which I didn't believe that I could do it. The only person who ever sometimes made me believe I couldn't do it was this guy right here. And that still happens from time to time, but that's a story for the video that I'm going to be releasing at the end of the year, where we talk about the accomplishments of 2016 and what it's meant to me. So hopefully that answers your question adequately. Let's move on to the next one. All right, next question's back to Final Fantasy XIV. Mr. Happy, would you be more inclined to partake in Lords of Verminion if it was changed to be open world minion combat? I'd be more inclined if it wasn't RTS. If it was something turn-based like Pokemon, I would be more inclined to do it, but not... I'm not much of an RTS guy, and I really do appreciate the insane amount of effort they put into Lords of Verminion. It's just that just because I'm an MMO player doesn't mean you need to try and bring in every different type of game. That doesn't mean I also want to play an FPS or I also want to play an RTS inside of my MMO. I'm playing it because it's a specific way, so you can't guarantee that I, as a person, am a fan of an entirely different type of game inside of my game. Which is why a turn-based Pokemon type system would have worked much better, because I'm already playing an RPG and I kind of already have that anticipation. I have a history with the Final Fantasy series, and I think it would have been better received. All right, we have another Final Fantasy XIV question. Mr. Happy, for someone just getting into raiding, what would be the best way to assign loot drops for a new group? So anything that improves DPS becomes priority number 1 until you can clear the entire tier. The tanking and the healing should be more than sufficient if the players are constantly improving inside the raid. So then clearing the fight as quickly as possible becomes your number 1 priority. For that reason, gob dips and enhancing anything that enhances the weapons should be going to your DPS first. Now, if you're in one of those odd situations where one of your DPS is not that good, and one of your, let's say your warrior, on occasion or consistently is competitive in DPS with one of your lower tier DPS, you may want to consider giving it to the tank, but then that creates issues where sometimes the tanks can pull aggro off of the main tank. If the off tank gets a weapon and the main tank doesn't have one, sometimes provoke swaps can be a little weird, so that gets kind of rough. And then other than that, dips should go to them. So after dips, it becomes, if a DPS can't get something, you give it to the tanks. And then if the healers get whatever else, as soon as the tanks can get it, then you give it to the healers. So, I mean, let's, for example, all your DPS don't need dips. Who do you give it to next? Tanks. Especially a Dark Knight, whose 270 weapon is fantastic. Then let's say that, you know, your DPS don't need any twines, or they can't buy an item this week with a twine. Hey, DPS, none of you can buy items this week with a twine? No. Okay, give it to the tank. Because the tanks are going to be more consistently putting out DPS. It's all about feeding gear to the people who are dealing the most damage first, and then slowly trickling down, eventually getting to the healers. That's at least how I've seen it handled in every tier so far. And obviously healer drops will go to the healers, but other than that, it just eventually trickles down to them. All right, so the next question we have in the chat is, do you have any plans for a Kingdom Hearts count up? So this is kind of weird. 2.8 releases in January, and then the remaster, the 1.5, 2.5 remaster, is in March. So, do I just do it when it launches in March? You know what I mean? And then I just play through them all. But then even then, I'm not going to go back and play Dream Drop Distance and Point and, you know, Fragmentary Passage again before it comes. You know what I mean? Like, it's just because it launches in, like, the opposite order. It's kind of weird for me to find the right place for me to sort of do a count up. I don't know if I'll do a count up. I can at least tell you I will be playing all the Kingdom Hearts games again prior to Kingdom Hearts 3's launch, which we still know nothing about, and I'm honestly still not banking on a 2017 release for that. We'll see what happens, but I'm still not banking on that. Kingdom Hearts 3 almost feels like more of a stretch than Final Fantasy 15 did, so we'll see where that goes, but I will replay them all. I just don't know if it'll be in order from, you know, Birth by Sleep to not Dream Drop, just to 358 over 2 days, to 1, to Chain of Memories, to 2, to fucking, you know, Dream Drop Distance. Yeah, I don't even know if I've named them all. And then watching back cover before all that, there's a lot of stuff to do. So we'll see how that ends up playing out. All right, I think this is going to be the last question that I take for this week. Mr. Happy, do you like the idea of doing an MMO that is based on virtual reality consoles? What do you think about that? Do you think there is a market for that? I pray to God we never do a VR MMO, because just because VR gets better doesn't mean it's ever gonna be that degree of popular, or that degree of popular amongst gamers in particular. I mean, a lot of people fascinated in VR are not just gamers. A lot of them are just general people, because it's almost like it was a childhood dream for them, and now it's kind of evolved into something that is trying to reach into the next generation of people who think it could be interesting. But more importantly, if you're gonna do a VR MMO, you need to make sure that almost everybody has the space to actually play a VR MMO. Like the room that I'm in right now, if I take down the green screen, there's barely enough room to use a VR system in here. And this is a decent sized guest room. You know what I mean? And then on top of that, you're pretty much demanding that you have touch controllers, because if I'm just going to play it with a regular controller, why? Like, I don't get the idea of playing a VR game with like a PS4 controller. That, like, it seems, it's so just not right to me as like a way to play VR. It doesn't feel like virtual reality. It feels like I'm just wearing a TV on my face. You know, I need it to like be simulating that I'm actually in this world, you know? Like, if I go to pick something up, I want to be able to do this, and even though I can't feel it in my hands unless I'm holding a controller, there's some sort of feeling that it's actually a virtual world. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't think VR is that big of a thing. I think a lot of people want it to be big. They want it to be the next big breakthrough. We're seeing all these companies developing it, and most everybody I see who picks up VR goes, "Wow, this is so cool." And then they put it down again. They don't regularly visit. They don't be like, "Oh, let me VR this for now." Most people just go, "Oh, yo, watch this." It feels like more of a show-off thing, like it exists. Like, wow, we did it, we have the technology. And less of a functional tool that actually enhances the experience. I think that we're a long way from VR ever being that. So I am not someone who is very invested in the idea of an MMO being in virtual reality. You know what? I have the ultimate virtual reality MMO. It's called Life, and I'm going to sit in here and not play it outside. But anyway, that's going to be the last question that I do for this week's Mondays with Mr. Happy. Thank you everyone for asking your questions live in the Twitch chat. One last reminder, we got videos at the bottom of the screen. I don't even know what videos I'm going to put there yet, because I've just had so many videos launched this last week. I got to pick 3 somehow and stick them at the bottom. So we'll see how that actually ends up working out. But anyway, I'm going to hang out with my Twitch stream for just a few more minutes. On the YouTube side of things, though, I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you for watching, and until next time, take care.